Picture a brown wooden box. No screen of its own, no sound, no way to keep score except a pencil and paper. 3 white shapes on a black background. That's it. That's the entire visual vocabulary. In September 1972, a company called Magnavox put this box on store shelves for $99.95, about $770 in today's money, and called it the Odyssey. Most people had never seen anything like it. Most people still don't know it existed at all. But every console that came after it, the Atari 2600, the NES, the PlayStation, the Switch sitting in your living room right now, exists because of what happened inside this box. This is the story of the device that started it all, the engineer who spent 6 years fighting to build it, and the businessman who walked into a demo room, watched it for 20 minutes, and changed the course of an entire industry. Act 1, the idea. In 1966, an engineer named Ralph Baer was working at a defense contractor called Sanders Associates in New Hampshire. While waiting at a bus terminal, he had a thought that wouldn't leave him alone. Television sets were everywhere. Tens of millions of American homes had one. But every single television only did one thing. It received a broadcast. It was entirely passive. But what if it wasn't? Baer wrote a 4-page proposal outlining how a simple piece of additional hardware could let 2 people play games on an ordinary television. Sanders gave him permission to pursue it quietly as a side project. By 1967, Baer and his 2 colleagues, Bill Harrison and Bill Rush, were building prototypes. They went through iteration after iteration, chasing games, target shooting games, simple sports simulations. Each one taught them something the last one couldn't do. By 1969, they had built their 7th major prototype. It was housed in a plain brown wooden case. They called it simply the Brown Box. Act 2, the search. Having a working prototype and having a product on store shelves are 2 very different things. Sanders Associates was a defense contractor. They built radar systems and electronics for the military. They had no interest in manufacturing a consumer toy and no distribution network to sell one even if they wanted to. So Baer and his team spent the next 2 years doing something that turns out to be one of the hardest parts of any invention, finding someone willing to take a risk on it. They demonstrated the Brown Box to multiple television manufacturers. Most looked at it, didn't understand what they were looking at, and passed. Then, in 1971, they got a meeting with Magnavox. Magnavox saw something the others didn't. Here was a way to sell more television sets, pitch the game system as an accessory that made owning a Magnavox TV more valuable than owning anyone else's. The company licensed the technology from Sanders and began preparing it for a commercial release. They renamed it. The Brown Box became the Odyssey, possibly, though nobody is entirely certain, a nod to the recent film 2001: A Space Odyssey. Act 3, the launch. In 1972 of May, Magnavox showed the finished Odyssey to dealers in Las Vegas, then unveiled it to the press at an event in New York. By September 1972, it was on shelves in 25 markets across the United States. What buyers got for their $99.95 was a device with no microprocessor, no memory, and no sound. Internally, it was built from roughly 40 transistors and 40 diodes, discrete logic, hand-wired. The screen could display 3 things: 2 small rectangles representing paddles, and a square representing a ball. To make that limited output feel like an actual game, Magnavox included translucent plastic overlays that stuck to the television screen, a tennis court, a hockey rink, a maze. The overlay gave you the setting, the console gave you the 3 moving shapes. Your imagination did the rest. The Odyssey came with 12 game variations built in, and could be expanded with additional cartridges, though calling them cartridges is generous. They were simple switches that arranged the console's internal circuitry, not programs in any modern sense. It also came with dice, playing cards, and poker chips. Several of the included games needed them. Despite all of this, despite being first, despite genuinely inventing the home video game console, the Odyssey sold approximately 350,000 units over its lifetime. Respectable, but not the cultural explosion it could have been. A large part of the problem was marketing. Some Magnavox salespeople reportedly implied or simply failed to correct customers who assumed that the Odyssey only worked on Magnavox television sets. It worked on any television, but the confusion never fully cleared up, and it almost certainly cost the company sales. Act 4. The Visitor. In May 1972, the same month Magnavox showed the Odyssey to dealers in Las Vegas, a young engineer attended one of those demonstrations. His name was Nolan Bushnell. Bushnell watched the Odyssey's tennis game. 2 rectangles, a square ball. He later said he thought the technology was unimpressive. Fuzzy, analog, nothing his own engineering instincts couldn't improve on. 1 month later, Bushnell founded a company called Atari. He assigned an engineer named Al Alcorn a project, officially described to Alcorn as practice, a training exercise to get him familiar with this new kind of electronics. Build a simple table tennis game. Alcorn built it. It was called Pong. It was released to arcades in November of 1972, 2 months after the Odyssey hit retail shelves. Magnavox noticed the resemblance immediately. Ralph Baer never became a household name. He continued working as an engineer for decades, holding dozens of patents, including, improbably, the electronic memory game Simon. He received the National Medal of Technology in 2006. Most people who play video games every day have never heard of him. Magnavox, for its part, didn't disappear quietly. Their lawyers filed a patent infringement lawsuit against Atari, arguing that Pong was derived from technology Bushnell had seen at that May 1972 demonstration. That lawsuit would drag on for years. Atari would eventually settle for a number that in 1976 sounded enormous, and in hindsight was one of the great bargains in business history. But that's the next chapter. Magnavox won the race to the living room. What happens next is the story of a company that turned the living room into a business worth billions, and the cost of getting there